Hi everyone, I'm Chef Susie with Escoffier Online, and thanks for joining me this morning. Today our live session is going to be about fondant, and there's two different types of fondant. There's a fondant that's in a liquid form that you can pour over cakes, and you can also use for icings on things such as your danishes or even your croissants that we made the last couple of weeks for our breakfast pastries. But today we're going to be exploring rolled fondant. It's gaining in popularity more all the time. It's super easy to make. You can actually buy this product. They have some really nice products out there that are for sale in large buckets if you're doing a lot of volume. They're convenient and they're good quality. But today we're going to be making a batch because it's important that you know how to make this and what ingredients go into it in case you are buying it and you're not able to purchase some someday and you can make your own. Okay, so knowing that, let's get started. There's just a few ingredients to the rolled fondant. It's powdered sugar, shortening, vanilla, a little bit of corn syrup, some water, and some gelatin. And today I'm going to be using powdered gelatin, which I have here. And what we're going to do first is we're going to be softening our gelatin with our water. And whenever you have gelatin in a recipe, you're always going to have water. So even if you're not seeing it in the recipe, be sure that you're softening your gelatin with some water, and you're just really just getting some water in this, and then the heat is actually going to dissolve the gelatin. So you've got to first get it in some water and soften it, and then you're going to put it on a double boiler, which I have here. And turn up our heat a little bit. And this is actually going to dissolve the gelatin. So you'll see it. It's an opaque color right now, and you'll see it become clear, and then you know it's ready to go. So to this gelatin, once it's dissolved, we're going to be adding our corn syrup and a little bit of shortening. And for flavoring, it's suggested that you use a clear flavoring. So I have a little bit of clear vanilla here. That's what we're going to be using. This is a good time too, if you're making the whole batch a single color, this is a good time to add in the coloring as well, because then it'll mix in really easily, and it's going to incorporate really well because it's in the base of the mixture. Otherwise, you can add colorings to your fondant by just incorporating them in by hand, kind of the way that we did the marzipan. So does anyone have any questions so far on anything? So we have our gelatin, which is nicely dissolved. So I'm going to go ahead and add my corn syrup, and then I'm going to be adding my shortening. And all these things together are going to be adding moisture and pliability. So please let me know if you have any questions. And then the shortening is going to go in, and it's going to become completely melted. So once we're finished making our fondant today, it's going to be stored in the refrigerator until next week. In the next few sessions, we'll be making some things with fondant. So if you have any questions or if there's anything that you're interested in, let me know ahead of time. You can give me a call at 877-452-5489, or you can email me, and then we can go over that topic at the time. And please let me know how you're doing. So this is going to take a few minutes to dissolve. It's going to melt a little bit. Then we're going to be pouring this whole lukewarm mixture into some powdered sugar, which we're going to be sifting. Always sift your powdered sugar, especially if you're buying it in big bags. There's going to be a lot of really big clumps. So always make sure you're sifting it. And do we have any questions on anything so far? Okay, our shortening is, it's melting. I'm going to be adding just a little bit of clear liquid vanilla. Lemon is nice, or almond, whatever flavor you'd like to make your fondant. And we have a question.
two questions. Can I make this with agar instead of regular gelatin? And also, will the recipe be posted?
The first question is, can you make the recipe with agar instead of gelatin? You can. You may have to experiment a little bit because agar is just a little bit different, but yes, definitely. And there are recipes out there, I've seen them, that are for fondant, rolled fondant, and they don't contain any gelatin at all. So you may want to explore one of those recipes as well. And the second question is will the recipe be posted? Yes, it will be. Okay, so our shortening is just about melted here. Then we're going to pull this off the stove. It's going to remain lukewarm. You don't want just to chill it all because your gelatin will start to set and then you're not going to be able to incorporate it into your powdered sugar. So we're just going to set it aside while we sift our powdered sugar. And do we have any more questions on anything? Okay. Okay, let's set this mixture aside. And then we're going to go ahead and sift our powdered sugar. Okay, so one of the keys to the powdered sugar in these fondant recipes is don't add it all at the same time. Set some aside. After I sift this, I'm going to be setting some of it aside, maybe like 1/3 or 1/4. And then near the end, you'll know if you actually need to add it. It's a lot easier to add the powdered sugar kind of slowly like this than have your fondant be crumbly. If it ends up to be a little bit crumbly, you can go ahead and add a little bit of water as well. But you kind of want to avoid that. So the best way to avoid it is don't mix in all your powdered sugar at once. Just kind of at the end, add the last amount that you set aside. And we have another question.
Two questions again. How much gelatin, one box? Question mark. And also, is that flavor imitation?
Okay, we have two questions. One was on the gelatin. It was, for this recipe, it was 1 packet, which is 0.25 ounces. It's a 1/4 ounce. So that's what's nice about that. You don't have to put away a packet. You'll be using the whole thing. And the second question was the flavoring of the vanilla. Was it imitation? Yes, it was an uncolored imitation vanilla, but there's so many different types of vanillas out there. I'm sure you could find one, or like I said, even lemon or almond. So I'm just kind of helping this powdered sugar through the sieve a little bit. And do we have any more questions on anything? We have another question.
Can you substitute for gelatin sheets?
Yes, you can substitute gelatin sheets. The conversion is 1 gelatin sheet equals 1/2 teaspoon of the powdered gelatin. So always keep that conversion in mind. And we're going to go ahead and sift this powdered sugar. I've got some organic powdered sugar in here, and it's not really a true white color, and it's a little harder to sift, so that's why I'm having a little bit harder time. Must be a little moisture in it, but we'll get it through. And does anyone have any questions while we're doing this? And also, how are things going with your assignments? And how are things going with the forum post and your portfolio? Please have your pictures up in your portfolio. And if you haven't made a post to the forum so far, go ahead and do one and just, say something about yourself, introduce yourself, or you can even post some pictures of your work, maybe some of your nice cakes with fondant after today or even before today. And there's so many things you can do with fondant. And I think some of you have already done some work with fondant, and I'm just kind of wondering what kinds of things you've done. So fondant is great for rolling on cakes, and it's also nice for doing little cutouts. You can do like little flower shapes and put them on top of cupcakes. You can do a variety of polka dots on top of cakes. There's just so many things that you can do with fondant. It stores really well in the refrigerator. Just make sure that you're wrapping it really well, and you're going to want to work with it at room temperature always. And if you need to use it quickly after it comes out of the refrigerator, you can just put it in the microwave for a real little bit just to bring it up to room temperature. And do we have any questions on anything? Okay, so we're getting near the end of our powdered sugar sifting. Then I'm going to be removing a little bit of this because we're going to set it aside in case we need it towards the end of our mixture. So I've got some lumps here in my powdered sugar, which is not uncommon. So that's why we're going to always want to sift it really well. So I'm just going to be taking some of this out, and I'm going to save it in case I need it at the end. And do we have any questions on anything? Okay. We have another question.
How much fondant does this batch make? Also, would it matter if you used real vanilla?
The question is, how much does this batch of fondant make? It makes about 2 pounds of fondant, and you can use real vanilla. Keep in mind when you're making fondant, you want to keep it white unless you're coloring it, but even so, you want to use the clear colorings always when you're making fondant because it's not going to show your color off either. Okay. So we're ready to pour our mixture in. I'm just making a well in the center, and we're going to pour this lukewarm mixture in. This is the base of our fondant. And you can mix this on the machine or you can mix it by hand. So it takes a little bit to mix it by hand. And do we have any questions on anything?
Is it the same as sugar paste?
The question is this the same as sugar paste? It's very similar. Most times sugar paste will not include any gelatin in it. It's more of, sugar paste is more for like a pastelage type of thing, making centerpieces and decorations, and you want those to get really dry. And these ingredients that I have in the fondant today, they're going to help keep it so it doesn't get super dry and super hard. So we're incorporating our powdered sugar in. And as you can see, it's still a little bit wet. So it's going to be taking just a little bit more of the powdered sugar. Like I said, you don't want to add it all at once because in the end, it may become too crumbly, but you can always save it a little bit by adding a little bit of warm water. Just kind of sprinkle it on until needed. Okay, so this mixture is becoming thick. But it still needs, as you can see, a little more powdered sugar because it's got to be manageable where we can handle it. And do we have any more questions on the fondant? And we have another question.
Will putting the fondant in the refrigerator make it wet or drippy?
The question is, will putting the fondant in the refrigerator make it wet or sticky? Nope. If you cover it up really well and airtight, the moisture from the refrigerator is not going to get to this. And it does store very well in the refrigerator for the weeks to come. And we have another question.
Also, can you use the dough attachment for mixing the fondant?
The question is can you use the dough attachment for your mixer for mixing the fondant? You can. And it's a little bit easier to make this on the machine, but I kind of just wanted to demonstrate it by hand today. So it's forming a nice paste, and you want it to be able to be pliable in your hand. So we're just going to add a real little bit more of the powdered sugar. And as you can see, this batch took about the whole amount of powdered sugar, but that's not always going to be the case, so be careful at the end. And also I wanted to mention too, some recipes you'll see glycerin in the recipe. And glycerin is available in cake stores. And it's a liquid. It's a thick, it's not too thick. It's not quite as thick as corn syrup, but it's a thick, sweet liquid. And what the glycerin does is it helps keep the moisture in. So if you ever see it in icings, that's what the purpose of the glycerin is. And if you can't find it in a cake store, if you want to use it in one of your recipes, you can buy it online. It's very available. Okay, so now I'm going to be turning this out onto my board. First, I'm going to be dusting it with some more powdered sugar. And then I'm just going to be kneading this the rest of the way. And if I find out that it's a little sticky, then I'm just going to be adding a little bit more powdered sugar. But I think that we're okay. And do we have any questions on the rolled fondant? It's nice and soft. It's room temperature. I'm just going to be kneading it a little bit. I'm taking the sides into the center. It's just like you're kneading dough. So it's still a little soft, so I'm going to add a little extra powdered sugar, and we have another question.
Can you make real marshmallow fondant?
The question is can you make marshmallow fondant? Yes, there are some really good recipes out there for marshmallow fondant. It's really nice. It's easy to work with. And you're really kind of doing the same thing because the marshmallow contains the sugar and the syrup and the gelatin and the vanilla like we made earlier. So it's a super similar base. But yes, the marshmallow fondants are very nice. And please, there's so many recipes out there for fondant. Please explore these different recipes and, find one that works well for you and that you like to work with. Okay, so our fondant is very manageable. You can handle it very easily, and it's pliable too. See, I'm bending it and it's not cracking. That's what you want to look for. If you're seeing cracking in your fondant when it's at this stage where it's like lukewarm at room temperature, then you know for sure you're going to want to add some liquid because it's going to give you a hard time when you start to roll it out. So we're getting ready to wrap up our fondant today. We're just doing the basic fondant mix today, and then in the weeks to come, we're going to be working with our fondant a little bit more. So please, if you have any questions, give me a call or send me an email. This is our fondant for today. It's super beautiful. It's nice and soft, and it's very pliable. I'm going to be wrapping it up, and I'll be storing it in the refrigerator, and we're going to use our fondant next week. We'll be coloring it, and we'll be making some fun things with the fondant in the weeks to come. So thanks for joining me today, and please make a post on the forum, some pictures of your work or just hello, and be sure that you're adding your picture to your profile. It doesn't necessarily have to be a picture of you. It can be a picture of your work as well or someone in your family. And thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.